Welcome back to the Out of Bounds podcast. I'm Charlie Caleri alongside
Gavin Williams.
And today we're going to do a little two-sport episode. First half, we're going to cover NHL playoff preview, which we're very excited for. Wild card races are heating up right now. And then second half of the episode, if you're maybe not interested in NHL, maybe you want to skip ahead a little bit. We got Final Four coming up in the second half, so stay tuned for that. But right now, Gavin, how's your week going?
My week?
Yeah, how's your week going?
Just
had Easter.
Yeah, happy Easter, everybody
Happy
who
Easter.
celebrates, obviously.
Happy Easter.
And, weekend back at home. Now we're back to school. Now we're back to the podcast, more importantly.
Back to the grind.
Tough. I'd say this week's going by just a rhythm aspect. I have to get back in the rhythm. So.
Yeah, I think this is a rhythm week.
It's a rhythm week.
Might take me a couple extra weeks because I got some extenuating circumstances going on, but
Big
all
wedding
good.
coming
All
up.
good, though. All good, though. So,
Big wedding coming up.
Shout out Maria.
Shout out Maria and Tom.
Shout out Tom, too. Shout out Frank.
Shout out Frank.
Shout out Frank.
Come on.
He's doing a lot for this wedding.
He's having a day.
If you know what we mean. Yeah, have a day. But NHL right now,
Yeah.
we're on that. And NHL wildcard race is heating up.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my Buffalo Sabres once again for the 13th straight season will not be appearing in the playoffs, but that just means another playoffs of me just enjoying it and sitting back and relaxing like I've done every year since second grade.
Yep.
So, Gavin, I start with your team right now. The New York Rangers, they're playing phenomenal.
Yeah. Starting out with the New York Rangers, there's been a lot of good hockey played. Congrats to Jonathan Quick, the winningest. I can't say that word right now. Winningest U.S.-born goalie in
and
the
I know
whole
that
NHL
title.
history.
I know that title all too well because
Yeah,
it was Ryan Miller's
Miller.
right before. So yeah,
Jonathan Quick, 370 wins with the Kings, 5 wins with the Knights, 17 wins for the Rangers. So good to see him get the platinum stick.
Knights legend, Stanley Cup 3-time Stanley Cup champion,
Yeah.
maybe 4 this season. Jonathan Quick.
Yeah,
Shout
future
out
Hall of
Jonathan
Famer.
Quick. Yeah, no doubt. Future
Yep.
Hall of Famer Jonathan Quick.
So just want to point that out. Unmarkable
Stick
achievement.
Stick taps from
Stick
the Out of
taps.
Bounds podcast right now.
Or like right on the edge
Yeah.
of the boards.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the Rangers are hot. They bad, horrible, crappy loss last night to the Penguins. You're gonna get hit in the mouth sometimes, and
Especially against a divisional opponent.
It's
It'll
a regular
happen.
season. It's a rival. Happens. I'm not gonna sweat too much about it. Happens. They're looking good. They have 104 points, so they're 3 points ahead of the Canes, who are in second place in the Metro right now with 101. So that might be a tighter battle come. There's, I think, 7 games left.
7 games left for the Rangers, yeah.
And so
every team's got about 7 or 8, yeah.
So, it's going to get close to see if the Canes can get hot and if the Rangers cool down. That number 1 seed, I think, is going to control a lot because playing a wild card team is much better than playing a inside the division team. And I saw that last year when the Rangers played the Devils and lost in 7 games.
By the way, they play tomorrow night on TNT.
Rangers Devils
tomorrow night, yeah.
Hype. 7:30 puck drop?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock puck drop, sorry. But, yeah, so you don't want to see another one. And I'll stick in the Metro for right now. By the way, in the total of the Eastern Conference, 4 teams have officially clinched, which is the Canes, the Rangers, the Panthers, and the Bruins, the 4 crazy heavyweights.
Yeah, we'll throw the Leafs are going to clinch soon. Yeah. They're in there. So those are definitely the top 5 in the East. And then from there, you get the next tier down. You go the Tampas,
the Phillies.
The Philly, Washington. Those are the next 3 probably.
Yeah. I'll stick in the Metro for right now.
Yeah, stick in the Metro.
So, starting off, Rangers clinched, Carolina clinched, but there's a huge race going on between the Flyers and the Caps, 1 point away from each other. Flyers have 83 points. Washington has 82. Flyers just got 1 last night with an OT loss. That's going to come down close. Your hot take in the beginning of the season was that the Flyers were going to come out, right? Wait,
the Flyers. I said that the Flyers were going to, back to our hot takes episode.
Yep.
If you have not listened to that, go back and listen because we both had some very good, accurate hot takes. I said that the Philadelphia Flyers were going to finish above the Washington Capitals and the Pittsburgh Penguins.
I said the Penguins were going to miss the playoffs, too.
Yeah, so that's definitely right. And I think, it's a toss-up right now between the Flyers and Caps. One of them is definitely getting in.
Yes.
The other one is on the verge of not even getting in because right now the Flyers are sitting at 83 points, 76 games played. The Caps right now sitting at 82, 73 games played. So they have 3 games at hand.
Yeah.
They need to make up 1 point. That's big for the Caps. But you're looking right behind the Caps right now. Detroit's sitting at 82. Islanders are at 79. Pittsburgh's at 77. I mean, below that, you got New Jersey at 76, and then the Sabres at 75, I think.
Yeah.
But it's below Pittsburgh right now. I think you're not looking at any team besides the Islanders, Red Wings, Capitals, or Islanders to get in those last 2 or 1 spots, depending on if you're
I
looking
just wish
at
they went back to the 1 through 8.
If this was 1 through 8 right now, this would be an insane
It would be
race at
awesome.
the bottom of the. It would kind of be like the NBA right now with
Yeah.
their play-in races, kind of. It'd be, those top 5 teams in Tampa, and then 2 teams for the last 2 spots. That'd be amazing right now.
It would be great.
And you're battling in. You're trying to play. You're trying to just get lucky and play the Bruins or the Rangers or the Canes, which we've seen upsets last year. I mean, Panthers.
Florida, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they
So-
had, and now, I mean, they bolstered on their roster, and Florida for a while was the hottest team in the NHL.
They were. I mean, they're at 99 points right now, 2 games back of Boston. Those two have just been flipping back and forth
all
right now.
season.
That's gonna be a good race to end the year right here. But Florida, they're 3-6-1 in their last 10.
Yeah, and looking back at the Flyers, who just gained a point last night, they're on a 5-game losing streak.
Yeah, not good for them,
and
especially going into the playoffs.
and especially having 3 more games than the Caps. I mean, they really got to put it together for these last 8, for the last 6. They only have 6 more
Yeah,
games.
it's 6 more games for the
So
Flyers,
they
so
have
they
to
really
strap
got to buckle
together.
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
They got to hope that the Capitals, who are on a 2-game losing streak of their own,
Keep it going.
maybe they can hope that the Capitals go on a 5-game losing streak
Yeah.
just like them. So, I mean, at this point, it's just about getting every point that matters. If the Flyers, the only thing that they can do is just get their own points. They can't worry about what
Yeah.
Washington's doing.
And, I mean, Philly this year has been stretches where they're 100% a playoff team, and then there's 100% where, like, how can this team even get in the playoffs?
yeah, and early on, it was kind of just like it's the same Philly as last year. I mean, they were usually one of the most consistent teams in the league for so long, and then became kind of bad a little bit. But then, battling back at the maybe middle of the beginning of the year, like second quarter of the year, they were great.
Yeah.
Third quarter,
Specifically, like,
pretty great too.
the February,
February,
they were hot.
yeah,
in
January,
February.
February area, they were hot right around All-Star break.
Yeah, like specifically even right after All-Star break when they played. I can remember when they played the Rangers. That was a playoff game for those 2 teams,
Yeah,
and it just looked like it. They were gritty. Their fights. Shout out Matt Rempe, but yeah. So it's gonna be a really close for the Metro. I mean, the Metro is always stacked every year.
yeah. I mean, and going over to the Atlantic now, which I think is a little bit more stacked.
Oh yeah,
We already talked about Boston, Florida. Let's talk about the Leafs a little bit here. We mentioned him a lot. Ian Kennedy, our Leafs correspondent,
yep.
Also a Rockets correspondent and Colts correspondent. Shout out
And
Ian.
Red Sox correspondent.
And Red Sox correspondent. Shout out Ian Kennedy.
And Maryland, if you want to count Maryland Terps
He's
in
a
there.
huge Leafs fan. Was
Huge.
watching the game last night when they beat the Panthers. Big win for them.
Huge win.
Because that might be a playoff matchup coming in 2-3 weeks.
And
So
they've only played 74 games, so they've got some room to even.
yeah,
shake
they're
it
only
up
4
if
games,
they,
4 points back of Florida. So I mean,
They
if
could
Florida
shake it
can
up.
continue their streak down, maybe Toronto takes that home ice
And
advantage in that first round.
They're on a 3-game win streak right now, and I think this is a year where the Leafs make some noise in the playoffs. This
I think
isn't
so,
the same
too.
Leafs team that we've seen just to make the playoffs, but haven't escaped. They escaped the first round last year in 7 games.
Yeah.
which they shouldn't have taken 7 games.
No.
So now that they have some playoff identity in them, I think Austin Matthews, Nylander, I mean, their team's just stacked.
They've been to the playoffs
I mean,
every year. They
Tavares,
definitely
I
have
mean-
the experience now. They just got to build on it. I
Yeah.
mean, they won the round last year. That's great. Beat Tampa.
Yeah.
Great win for them. But you got to build on it.
And I think
You gotta
this is the
build
year
on it.
that they're going to build. I think
I agree.
they might go as far as the Eastern Conference Finals,
They definitely could.
but I think they're definitely going to be in the second round, I think. this year.
Especially because the biggest problem that they've had the last few years has been goaltending.
Yeah.
And Samsonov, well, he's been
He was off in the beginning of the year.
Yeah, he was off in the
He really
beginning of
found
the
his
year. I
feet,
mean,
though.
he's only, I think, at 11 losses, regulation losses, throughout this whole season. So, I mean, that's just a spark plug
Yeah,
off the bench when
he's
you know the
finding
guy
his-
behind you is making saves.
He's finding his he's getting his feet wet again. He's finally finding his rhythm, especially when you have a team that you can match up. If the standings stay today, I mean, they're going to play probably Florida.
Yeah,
in
we'll
that
touch.
first round.
Yeah,
We'll get to that.
We'll
in
go
a
Western
second.
Conference, and then we'll touch on the playoff matchups a little bit right after this. So, going with that, we'll go Western Conference right now. Let's start in the Central Division.
Hottest team in the whole
Yeah.
NHL, 7-game win
Yeah.
streak. Dallas Stars.
Dallas Stars. I mean, those Stars are rolling right now. I know Jake Ottinger's not having a great year, but he's turned it around recently, obviously. 7-game win streak for them. They're 8-2 in their last 10.
They're only 1 point away from the President's Trophy.
Something interesting about this Central race right here is if you looked at it when they were, I think, they've each played 75 games. I'm talking about the Stars, Avalanche, and Jets, the top three in the Central. Those have been just basically the top three all season. The rest of the Central has been kind of bad. But I think around when those teams were at 65 games, about 10 games ago, they were all tied for the same amount of points. And the Jets fell off a little bit. Avalanche have kind of been playing better as recently, but kind of were struggling a little bit. But the Stars have just been so consistent, and now they're 3 points ahead of the Avalanche, who are and now the Stars are 7 points ahead of the Jets. So they're really making strides to jump those teams and really create separation moving into the playoffs.
Yeah, they want to control their own destiny.
Like you mentioned, playing those wildcard teams too. I mean, now Colorado and Winnipeg are going to have to battle it out first round. I mean, that's a second round matchup right there. So
yeah, I mean, you look at just the goaltending there. I mean, you have Georgiev and you have Hellebuck, and they're both great. One significantly
star power in that series.
I mean, Georgiev has really stepped up from his experience when he was with the Rangers. Went to Colorado, had his own story to write.
Yep.
Wrote his own story. Now he's looking at one of the top 7 goalies in the league, maybe. Definitely top 10.
He's definitely top 10. I think this season especially. He does have a lot of help in front of him.
He does.
I'll give him that. I
mean, that Avs team is absolutely loaded.
It is. I mean, but I think if you look at any of those 3 teams right now, maybe throwing the Jets in there if they can get hot. But definitely the Stars and the Avalanche, those 2 teams can definitely make a run, and that matchup in the second round would be
and both of them
unreal.
For the past 3-4 years have had such great playoff success.
Yeah. I mean, Stars going to the Cup final in the bubble year.
Yep.
Going to the conference final a couple other years, facing the Avalanche, who obviously won the championship. Yeah, won the Stanley Cup. So, I mean, these 2 teams know how to win, and let's see if they can do it when they get back. They're both clinched right now, so they're definitely going back. Going into the Pacific Division now.
Team that shocked the most.
Yeah, shocked the most. The Vancouver Canucks. Story of the year, probably.
Definitely.
This team's at 100 points right now. They are 5 points ahead of the Edmonton Oilers, who are at 95, who probably will not be able to catch them. So let's chalk this one up for the Oilers, for the Canucks winning that Pacific Division. Shout out to the Vancouver Canucks. They're a fun team to watch if you've not watched them this year.
Just 2 years ago, I think it was last year, scrapped the whole front office, scrapped the whole head coaches, all coaches, even AHL coach. They scrapped everything.
It was a lot of stuff went down. I mean, but they kept their core players, which was they didn't blow it up completely. It was very smart by them.
Quinn Hughes, JT Miller, they kept their weapons.
Yeah, they kept all the guys that they have on their team.
He's a great goaltender in this
I was going to mention him. That's the guy that they were thinking about trading him because he was at a point in his career where his value was pretty good and you can get something for him. But
shout out Thatcher Demko, Utica Comet,
yeah, former when they were the Canucks affiliate, right? Yeah, so. Shout out to Thatcher Demko. He's probably a top 5 goalie in the league this year.
Yeah.
If not top
unbelievable.
3. Yeah.
I mean, that guy, he's got head on his shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
He's very disciplined when I watch the Canucks play, he's very disciplined when he watches the puck come in. He's not overly aggressive like some of these other goalies who are seeing the top 5 for being aggressive. He's more of a conservative. I'm going to just
stay in your crease.
Stay in the crease and just be big.
Yep.
I mean, he's just great. He's phenomenal, and he's not going to make the most flashy saves, but he's going to stop the damn puck.
Yeah, and that's what you need in the playoffs, especially. I mean, because that team can definitely score some goals. They have 255 goals in the year. That's a pretty good amount of goals.
Yeah, I mean, and the Stars are. You look at the Stars' goals, and they got 276. I mean, they're just lighting up every goaltender out there.
Yeah, but if we look at the next matchup, I guess, in this division, I guess the 2-3, it'd be Oilers-Knights.
Knights just came off of a cup win.
Yeah.
Everybody thought they were going to run away with
starting off really slow, though. They started off really slow, had a really bad around the All-Star break when the Flyers were hot, actually.
Yeah.
We were talking about. Vegas was really struggling. We did not know. They had some injuries. They were really banged up. But they look to be back there at 90 points. And if they play Edmonton in the first round,
good luck. I mean,
that series is going to be unreal. Yeah. That's going to be an unreal first round
series. That might be a
series.
7-game series right off the bat.
I hope so.
And I mean, that's everything a hockey fan wants. Every hockey fan wants a 7-game series every single round because that's the more hockey they can watch.
Yeah.
That's the more exciting hockey, especially the only reason why I like the new playoff format is seeing division rivals go at each other. And, I mean, I wouldn't consider Oilers and Knights to be crazy rivals.
No.
But still, in division, I mean, that can get ugly. You never know.
I can't remember if they did. But did Vegas play Edmonton in the second round last year? Because I know Edmonton played the Kings in the first round, and the Vegas played the Jets. Because I remember that series wasn't too great. But I just want to mention the point of Eichel versus McDavid at this point. Maybe it's either the first or second time we're seeing this in the playoffs. But in the first round, especially this year with those two teams, I feel like I just feel like that narrative isn't finished yet, and I think that being in the same conference in the same division, it's definitely not over yet. So, I hope that matchup gets kind of rekindled a little bit. But
in the second,
they did play.
No, in this. This is saying the Avalanche they played, but the Avalanche lost in the first round to Kraken.
Yeah, maybe
so that's not a reliable source from Wiki.
Regardless, I mean the matchup of Eichel McDavid would just be entertaining to watch. But in that Western Conference wildcard race now, which is not as hot as the Eastern one, but I'll say this: the Nashville Predators, they've been kind of that first wildcard team most of the season, kind of like the Tampa Bay Lightning out east, just a little bit worse. They're at 90 points right now. If they were in the Pacific Division, they'd be tied with Vegas for third, but sadly for them, they're not. They're kind of locked in at that first wild card right now. They're 3 points up on the Kings. Sorry, same amount of games played, so they're probably locked in there. They're both on losing streaks though, so that's not too great there. But
they did play the Oilers
in
the second round.
Okay, so this would be the second time that they played.
Because they went from Jets to Oilers to Stars, and then they beat the Panthers.
Yeah, and then
so that would be a rematch.
It would be
the second round last year. I mean,
obviously,
I
Vegas
love
winning
playoff
that
rematches.
one, yeah.
They're just phenomenal.
And especially now. I mean, that's the good thing about this format, I guess, is that you're going to see the same teams play every year, which is great. But at the same time, it's like I want to see some new matchups in the playoffs. Like I want to see the Canes play. I want to see the Canes play the Panthers in the first round.
Yeah,
maybe let's see that one year. Like I don't know. It's possible with the wild cards, but I mean, teams like the Leafs and like the Lightning usually. Maybe from now on they will be in the wild card, but those teams usually aren't in the wild card, so they're going to be playing the same teams in the Atlantic every year. So it's kind of boring in that regard.
It is.
Other than that, I think let's go back to that 1-8 format.
Let's go back to the 1-8.
Yeah, but I mean that Western Conference wild card race is not anything special. The Kings are up on the Blues 3 points with the game at hand too, so they could be potentially up 5 points if they win their next game. But let's see if the Blues could sneak in there. Below that, the Wild, Kraken, and Flames, they're all out of it.
Kind of sad for the Kraken. I mean, everybody's really high on them this year.
Yeah, I mean, they had a really good second season in the
Yeah.
league, but I mean, this third season has not been as kind to them. Last season, winning a round, that was big for the franchise in general.
Over the Stanley Cup champions.
I think this year
it's kind of sad.
Not going to happen this year for them. But yeah, I mean, right now, do you want to go over the potential matchups right now?
Yeah. So
if the season ended today.
The season ended today. It would be. We'll start in the Eastern Conference. The Bruins against a wild card 2, which is the Caps.
Yeah, and this is going to be. This probably will not be the matchup, but it definitely could be.
It could be though, and that series, that's old versus new, right there. I mean, well, the Bruins aren't the youngest team in the league, but they certainly are younger than the Capitals.
That's true. I mean, I don't know. Well, yes, definitely the older, like the veteran guys on the team are definitely more experienced on the champion Capitals.
Even that could shake up some things.
It's definitely a narrative that like kind of was said last year, I guess too, with Florida and Boston. But at the same time, it's the same thing that happened. I mentioned this last week with Purdue. It's kind of the same situation as Virginia. You lose in the first round. You're one of the best teams. Lose in the first round, that's really disappointing. You got to sit on that for a whole year. When you get back, you're not wasting that opportunity again.
Never again.
That's why Purdue's in the Final Four, which we'll touch on a little bit.
Yep.
That's why Virginia won when they lost to UMBC. That's why I think Boston's going to make a run in the playoffs.
I 100% think they're going to like the conference final this year, or at least the second round.
I mean, I definitely think so, but it would be a tough matchup in that second round against that 2-3, either Florida or Toronto, which would just create either a rematch of last year's first round or Boston-Toronto, which would be incredible in the playoffs second round. That's a great rivalry. I hate both those teams.
Yeah,
but I want to see
the
that
absolute
in the
crap
playoffs.
out of each other. Yeah. So I mean that potential matchup between the Panthers and Maple Leafs, which is looking to shape.
Well, actually, sorry, it would have been Rangers Capitals because the Rangers are ahead of the Bruins right now because they have 104 points. Sorry. And then the Bruins would play the Lightning, which would still be a great matchup. But it's kind of the same with the Rangers and Capitals. I still think the Rangers would win.
They have some past playoff history, though, between those two
yeah.
teams. Well,
and I still think Boston would take it over Tampa, even though that would still be that would even be a better series than Washington.
I think so, too.
Give the Rangers Washington, give them just a bye, basically. Go to the second round. I'm saying that now, knock on wood, not like we both thought Boston would sweep Florida last year. But
True.
Yeah. And then that Carolina versus
Flyers.
Carolina/Flyers versus Capitals series. Yeah. That's going to be a pretty good one too, I feel like.
I mean, that's just interdivision.
I hope they play the Flyers.
I do too.
I hope so too. Yeah, but I honestly, for me, we're not talking about the Red Wings enough here. They're tied with the Capitals right now.
They are.
But they're 2 games. They play 2 less games than the Capitals. But if those Red Wings can get in, Patrick Kane in the playoffs. Let's see it
Showtime.
Again. Let's see it again. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, maybe those Isles sneak in. Probably not.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's it for the East right now. Moving back over to the West. Right now, the 1 seed in the West is those Dallas Stars. They're rolling right now. And then they would be playing the LA Kings, who are a young team. They were in the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that's a very, very tough matchup for the Kings if this were to be the matchup because the Stars are the hottest team, and they would roll over the Kings.
Probably. We have to assume. Maybe it's one of those situations again where we just overlook it, but who knows?
True.
And then we would have Vancouver and Nashville, which would be interesting because it's 2 hot teams who weren't really supposed to be here this year, especially Vancouver. Yeah. So I'm just excited to see how Vancouver navigates this playoff run because they have guys who have been in the playoffs, but just not with Vancouver. Yeah. So I just want to see how they can do it together. That's gonna be interesting. And then we touched on both these matchups a little bit. Colorado, Winnipeg.
I mean, that's a beatdown. I mean, that's
you think?
I mean, I think. Well, no, a beatdown as if slug after slug, just going one, like not a beatdown like no one's getting crushed.
But that's what I thought you were saying. I just meant like Jets are going to get crushed.
No, I'm just saying like interdivision beatdown. We're just going to beat the hell out of each other. I think the Avs, if that were to be the case, they would come out of that just because of pure playoff experience. And the Jets have been in the playoffs, but they haven't really escaped the first round in a while.
Yeah, and what I love about the Jets too when they get in the playoffs, they do those whiteouts. Every year they do the whiteouts. I think Avalanche do the same thing. So I mean that would be pretty like a whiteout series basically. Yeah. So then that Pacific Division 2-3 matchup would be Edmonton and Vegas, and we mentioned
last year. Yeah.
Rematch from last year. Eichel McDavid. Let's see it again. Cup champions versus Oilers who want to get there.
They at least want to appear in a cup final.
Yeah, I mean,
it's been a while since they won a cup.
Yeah, this would be the year for the NHL if a Canadian team I think would win. It would be Vancouver, Edmonton, Toronto. Those are the teams that, or Winnipeg's in there too, but I don't believe in them as much as Vancouver, Edmonton, Toronto. Those 3 teams I think can really make a run. But who say Winnipeg too?
Yeah.
But speaking of Canadian sport, right? We're talking about hockey.
Yeah, we're talking about hockey.
What about a Canadian guy named Zach Edey? What about him?
Yeah.
What about him?
A lot of people have been praying for DJ Burns so we no longer have to watch this Zach Edey because it could be some of the most boring basketball you can watch, but he's very dominant.
It is. And I was mentioning this yesterday. I hate watching this Purdue team.
I hate it. Oh,
Purdue is like
painful.
the only, like as a Big Ten fan,
yeah.
Purdue is one of the only teams that I can look at. They're kind of like a Rutgers where I look at them and I'm like, I don't hate them. I hate Purdue this year.
I do too.
I actually hate them.
I've hated Purdue for a while, actually.
I've liked Purdue basketball, especially when they had Caleb Swanigan, when they had Carson Edwards.
I only liked them when they had Carson Edwards. That's the only year I liked them. I have never liked them.
I loved Jaden Ivey in college. That was like one of my favorite college players of all time. I don't know why he was high flying, just yamming on people. He's just a better version of Ja. I'll say that in college. I'll say that.
College.
Whatever. Anyway, we're talking about Zach Edey here. Purdue making the Final Four. They will be playing.
First time since 1980.
Yeah. And then NC State's first time
since 79.
Yeah, wild.
Something like that.
I mean, so both these teams back in for the first time. They don't want to mess it up.
They both had crazy good wins.
No, and Purdue's favored right now by 8.5 points, so significant margin right now.
Yeah.
This game's going to be very interesting. It's going to be the DJ Burns versus Zach Edey show.
Yeah, I mean, they're just going to feed those boys down low, and they're going to see which one. Does it take mass, or does it take
Height.
length?
Yeah.
I mean,
Story of the game.
we're going to find out the hard way that we're going to see if 275 pounds can cover a 7 foot man.
Yeah, and I mean, Horn's been playing great too for NC State. He's their leading scorer. O'Connell's been playing great.
Been playing unbelievable.
Diarra's been playing great. I mean,
the other DJ. I mean,
yeah.
the DJ. I mean, they've both been playing good.
Obviously, they're all playing great. They're in the Final Four.
I was just making a joke about NC State 2 days ago. I was talking, and I'm like, hey, does the slipper still fit? And sure as
it does.
How it does.
I didn't think it did.
I didn't think it did. But this is different than last year. I'm going to say this like right now. I hated FAU. I hated San Diego State. Hated both them being in the Final Four. I didn't mind Miami and obviously UConn. But this year's Cinderella feels a lot different. It's a Power 5 school who got right at the right time, got hot at the right time, went to the ACC championship, won the whole. They haven't lost a game since the regular season of basketball.
They've been playing postseason basketball for about a month.
Yeah.
More, if not more.
And they've just been on a grind, and they've been wear and tear. And this is a different Cinderella team than last. I hated last year. Last year, March Madness was not fun to me.
No, I mean, the first
Cinderella
two
team,
rounds
though?
were some great games, but I guess the quote storyline of March Madness wasn't as good as years past. But I think this year we got a little bit worse games, but the storyline has just been like the quote, like, you know what I mean by storyline, just like the overall feeling of the event, I guess.
Yeah.
It's just a lot better this year. I feel like it's a lot more normal. We got some one seeds in the Final Four now. We got one Cinderella. That always happens.
I like having just one.
It's just how it's supposed to be.
Yes.
There was only one Cinderella.
Yep.
I mean, not if you include the second and third movie, but I mean, that's a whole other conversation. But I just want to get your insight into this game, Gavin, into how you think NC State could potentially win this game and slow down Purdue.
There's one way. It's slowing down Zach Edey. And if there's one man who could slow him down, it's DJ damn Burns, man. I mean, he's slowing down a lot of guys in this tournament and in the ACC tournament. And specifically the ACC tournament, Baycott, slow down. That's one of the best centers in basketball for college. Mm-hmm. Then he has to go through like a Kyle Flipowski, slow him down. That's a 7-footer. Purdue's got their own 7-footer. But it's hard to battle mass. DJ Burns is so wide. It's hard to – I mean, it's the only way Zach Edey would dominate this is if he draws fouls, and that is it.
And you know what?
Pure defense, DJ Burns got him locked up.
He will draw fouls because every game, this guy gets to the line.
So many times. Had a career
and I understand it,
too.
I understand it from the ref standpoint. Like, how are you not going to call a foul when a dude is just jumping and basically just hanging on this guy? Like, because what else are you going to do? But, I mean, at the same time, he's got to be able to absorb some contact. I mean, he can't just, like, he's not 100 pounds. He can't hide that fact. I mean, he's got to be able to take some contact at some point. He can't just be flailing his arms around all the time.
We're about to see some contact.
The only good part about him getting the line as much is that he's not a great free throw shooter. So
he was in crunch time.
71%. 71%. He's a clutch free throw shooter. I'll give him that. But he does airball. He did airball last game. So
and I mean, he had a career high against Tennessee in the Elite Eight. One of his greatest games ever. But I don't think anybody in the world really cares.
Which is weird because I mean you have what 40 points and you have nearly 40 points and 17 rebounds and nobody really cares.
No.
And it's because you're 7'4".
Yeah.
It is kind of disrespectful to Edey because
it is.
How is he supposed to have a better game than that somehow in this game? Even though I think he potentially will.
Yeah.
But this could be potentially one of the greatest college basketball runs of all time if he continues this level of play.
And more people,
just from a sheer number standpoint.
More people care about Edey and the video with a girl going live than him playing in the Elite Eight and smoking Tennessee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Tennessee was, top 8 all year. Yeah. All year. And that game was close. It was close.
It was good until the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, Tennessee just started chucking shots.
It got ugly.
Mm-hmm. But I think you mentioned it. Yeah, the only way I think NC State can win this game is if they stop Zach Edey.
That's the only way.
I mean, Brendan Smith's not going to beat you.
Nope.
Lawyer's not going to beat you.
Nope.
I mean, they're not. They're just not. Nobody else on that team is going to beat you except Zach Edey. I would double him. I would leave the. I know they're great 3-point shooters. I know they are.
Not last game.
But I'm telling you this: if you take the game in sample size of 5 possessions, right? If you give them 5 open threes because you're doubling or open quote because you're doubling Edey, right? If you give them 5 possessions, let's say they score on 2 of those, say 40% from the field, right? Zach Edey shoots 62% from the field. He's making 3 of those 5 possessions. That's 6 points right there. It's the same amount of possessions. So there's a better chance they miss those jump shots than those little jump hooks from Edey.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. If they double Edey, I feel like there's a better chance that they get out of this game than if they leave those shooters open.
I think it's going to be a better game than a lot of people think.
I think so too. I think NC State matches up pretty well.
They do.
But can that magic continue? That's the only question.
This is where, I think the magic will end. Unfortunately, I do not see NC State in the finals.
I think so too.
But it was a cool run. Tipped the caps. Historic run from NC State. Nobody thought they even be in the March Madness. I mean, they weren't supposed to be unless they won the ACC.
I mean, if Virginia makes a free throw, they're not in. They're not in here. If they don't come back against Louisville in that second half, they're not here. If they don't win, I mean, I mentioned it before. Bonaventure played in the A-10 tournament. I said we need to win 10 games in a row and we're national champions. Yep. NC State has won 10 games in a row, and they're very close to being national champions. They're one of 4 teams left, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, they only have 2 games left. So
2 wins.
They're kind of the same philosophy that I had before the tournament. Just win your games and you're national champions. I mean, that's the story. That's the story of it. So, just going to be a really good game, I think. But
I mean, they had to get through like Marquette. I mean, they went through a hard road.
DJ Burns did get some tough matchups. Which, by the way, I want to point this out. He does not lead their team in points, assists, or rebounds.
Nope.
It is Horn for points, Diarra for rebounds, O'Connell for assists. DJ Burns does all those things separately, just like he's probably second on all those lists. I can't see who's second, but he's probably second on all those lists. And then Edey averaging 25 points per game. You're going to have to slow him down.
Yeah.
That's
he's averaging 30 at one point.
Yeah. And slow down. He's a bum. He slowed down a little bit. But anyway, going to the who do you think is going to win that game?
I got Purdue, unfortunately.
Yeah, me too.
I'm going to say unfortunately, though.
I agree. If I was a betting man, I think I would take plus 8.5 for NC State
to cover.
To root for a close game.
Yeah.
I think in that sense, if you wanna pick any pick for a good game, that's probably the one you want to go for. Yeah. If not, you can go plus 11.5 for Alabama if you want that to be a close game because they are playing the UConn Huskies, who are just look like an NBA team out there basically.
Yeah.
Going on 30-0 runs and Sweet 16 and.
UConn has only trailed 28 seconds in March Madness. They were tied 23-23 to Illinois, and just 30-0 run against Illinois in the Elite Eight.
How does that happen? I mean, Illinois beat a very good Iowa State team in the Sweet 16, and you come out, you're losing by 2 points at half against this UConn team who has 3 losses all year.
Yeah,
35-3, have one of the best coaches in recent college basketball memory, have one of the greatest lineups in college basketball memory, are the defending champions, and then you're going to go on a 30-0 run. 30-0 run.
Crazy. The game of March Madness.
My jaw was on the floor.
Yeah.
It was crazy. They couldn't miss a shot.
Nope, not one.
Cam Spencer cannot miss a shot.
No,
that guy is
a hooper.
Unreal. Tristan Newton cannot miss a shot. But let me mention this. In the last game for Alabama, Sears could not miss a shot for them against Clemson.
Was a hooper.
So
he made deep three after deep. He made 6 threes in a row.
Yeah, so let's touch on Alabama first here because they're a little bit more of an interesting story. I mean, 25-11, the 4 seed coming out of that region, beat UNC, beat Clemson to get here.
Beat Charleston.
Yeah.
I mean,
Charleston, Grand Canyon right before that.
That Grand Canyon game was horrible.
But UNC and Clemson, those are 2 great wins.
Yeah. ACC,
Clemson matched up very well against them. PJL had a great game.
Gerard didn't have a good game until the second half.
Yeah, I was going to say he was hitting some deep threes for some reason randomly in the second half.
Shefflin played pretty good.
The only thing I kept thinking about was just how good of a game that was. And I texted it in our friends group chat. I said, Alabama-Clemson has given us some of the greatest games of all time. Yeah. And it's a fact.
Whether it's football or basketball, man.
It's just, I don't know what about those 2 schools coming together. They always just find a way.
Alabama's head coach said,
Nate Oates, former UB coach.
Yep, he said.
Shout out.
Many people think this is the Rose Bowl, but this is the Rose Bowl of basketball.
Yeah, I mean, basically the Elite Eight, I guess, is that semifinals. I guess you want to.
I mean, I really hope
equate
that
it.
Alabama can pull off one of the craziest upsets in Final Four history.
Either one of these would be insane, but I kind of hope it's either two upsets or both favorites
agree.
win because
I agree.
I don't want the national championship to be a blowout.
Yep.
That would just be terrible.
For the sake, rather see UConn. Honestly, I don't mind UConn. I mean, I know Syracuse shared the Big East for them with a while. I was never a UConn hater. I always root for them. I mean, they've gone through some crazy phases like Cardiac Kemba, now national champion. I mean, I want UConn to win the whole damn thing.
Yeah, I mean, if they win this national championship, I think they're 100% a blue blood. I don't think you can dispute that.
Nope.
They would have more, I think, than some of the blue bloods right now because I think they're tied. So that would be definitely a question of maybe dropping somebody out. Not going to mention who, Kentucky, but whatever. But UConn right now, obviously, only 3 losses on the year. How is Alabama?
One of them was to Seton Hall. Just want to point that out.
How is Alabama going to give them their 4th loss?
I actually, this is the one thing where I can only tell you one answer. Sears. That's it. That is it. That's the only way they can win this game is if he's on as much as he was last game. Second half, though. First half, he was horrible.
Yeah.
If he can just be like how he was in the second half all game long, that's the only possible way that Alabama can even sniff a win against UConn.
Yeah, and you can't even say, like, let's play slow because UConn will just go down, make one pass, and hit a 3, and it won't matter. Because you can play slow for 30 seconds and then miss your shot, and then UConn will just go down, make it 3, and it won't matter.
Hurley might be looking to be one of the best coaches if he gets this championship. This is the first back-to-back since 2007.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, everybody's going to go to UConn. UConn's going to be the new Duke.
I know.
It's going to be a new UNC.
And
it's just going to be the new school to go to.
What's kind of interesting about UConn, too, is that if you look at Klingon, if you look at arguably their best player, if you don't want to say Tristan Newton, but Klingon's from Connecticut, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So they're recruiting locally. They're just protecting their backyard, I guess, in a sense of just getting the guys that they know will go to UConn because everybody in that region, I mean, that's their team. It's UConn. I mean, I've never experienced that firsthand, but I can just assuming if you're not a Whaler, if you're a Whalers fan back in the day, you're probably a UConn Huskies fan right now.
Oh yeah, so, it's tough too because their football field is atrocious, man. I mean,
their
and then they go to basketball, and then they're the best team in the country.
This would be a terrible football matchup. This would be an Alabama UConn football. This would be a terrible matchup.
65-0.
But we get this in the Final Four. Right? How lucky are we?
Yeah.
I want to talk about Sears a little bit because you mentioned him. I think he has to be the key in this game.
Yeah.
He's averaged 21.5 points per game, 50% from the field, very efficient, 85.9% from the free throw line.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy's a lockdown shooter. But one of the keys for the game for Alabama is not his offense, I think, but it's Grant Nelson's defense against Klingon.
Yeah, Grant Nelson had a horrible game.
Horrible game after his best game of his career against UNC. But I think he needs to slow down Klingon, and he only averages 5.6 rebounds per game.
Yeah.
Klingon averages 2 more than him. He needs to out rebound Klingon somehow for them to win this game.
Yeah, Nelson has one step first. He has a step-by-step process. First step, shave off the damn mustache. Second step, lock up Klingon. I mean, that mustache is horrible.
It's not good.
It's horrible.
Yeah, no, he just looks
horrible.
He looks like if any of you guys, this is kind of off topic, but if any of you guys watch that Disney show Kicking It, he looks like the one dude from Kicking It. That's all I'll say about that. But UConn right now,
Milton Krupnik?
Yes, Milton, I think was his name. Yeah. Yeah, Milton.
I love that show growing up. Come on now.
But I mean, that's the way I think Alabama's going to win. UConn, if they just play their game, they make their shots. Yeah, they have a championship.
I don't think anybody out of NC State or Purdue has a chance of beating them either.
I hope it's UConn Purdue. I think that would be one of the best national championships we've had in a while, and it could set up for one of the best games of all time.
It could set up just like the Villanova UNC. That's why I'm praying for if UConn and Purdue can see each other. That's a battle against shooting and getting down dirty in the paint. I mean, that's just a battle of two different games.
It's funny because you see the 2 1 seeds and you would immediately just assume, we're rooting for NC State, I guess, but you would just assume most people are rooting for the underdogs, I guess, or at least one of them. But I think this year it's just a little bit different where you look
Last
at
year
you
we
go,
had such a bad championship game.
Yeah, it's just because you look at it and you go, there's really only 2 teams that can win it. and they're on both sides, they got to meet in the championship
They
for it
have
to be
to.
right. It would be a fitting way to end the season. It'd be,
Redemption
arguably
tour.
best player in college basketball,
Yeah.
Zach Edey, versus defending champs, best team. It would
Best
just be a
coach.
great, best coach. I mean, that would just be a great.
And Hurley, I mean, that guy is fantastic.
He really is, and I like the way that he conducts his team.
Yep.
He said something the other day. I don't know where it was specifically, but he was talking about his son, who's on the team. I don't know if many people knew that.
He got in.
His son did get in, but
Yep.
it was actually on Part of My Take he was on, and they mentioned that UConn was 40-0, I think, when he got in the game or something, and they were asking Hurley. They said, "Is that," jokingly, obviously, because he only gets in garbage time, but they were saying how has Hurley thought about starting him at some point because they're 40-0, and Hurley said, "Actually, I did think about starting him at one point on senior night."
Oh,
And then he
okay.
said,
That makes
he
sense.
said, I sat him down, like one of his players. He said, I sat him down, and we both came to a mutual decision that it wasn't best for the team for him to start. He said, Dan Hurley said, I think if you play like poop during this game, then, and we lose this game, it's going to come back on me that I started my son. And then the son agreed with him, and because Dan Hurley said he's a humble kid. He's not a spoiled kid. I think he was taking a little bit of a shot at Izzo. Not totally sure. I don't know.
Different story.
Different story.
His
Different
son got
story.
into March Madness, by the way.
That's true.
He got in
That
against
is
the
true.
Mississippi State game.
Yeah.
Garbage time, though.
Garbage time. Usually how it goes. But I will say this, Dan Hurley, that's how he conducts his whole team. It's not about one guy. He's not just looking at Klingon. He's not just looking at Newton. He's not just looking at his son.
It's a team.
It's the team, yeah. He doesn't act like this team won last year.
No,
None of the
not
guys
at
act
all.
like they won last year because most of them didn't. They're trying to do it for the first time. Hurley doesn't care about last year. Why would he? As a college coach, and especially at an elite program where you've turnover,
Yeah.
you can't think about last year. I mean, it doesn't matter.
It was cool in the moment. Past is past. You gotta write your future script.
If you can string two in a row, then go back to the other one.
Yep.
Go back to the other one. Obviously, go back to it. It's the national
It's
championship.
like, what did I do right?
But,
Yeah.
I mean, I like how Dan Hurley, his confidence, but his,
he's got a little.
he's got like a sleek confidence to him
He
where
does.
he's not overly confident, and it's not like a egotistical kind of way. It's kind of just like a, hey, we're here. We're here, and we're going to beat you kind of thing. He's just telling
Yeah.
teams that we're going to beat you, and they are. And they're destroying them.
And yeah, and what he said in a post game press conference, he was saying, we can't win the close game, so why not blow them out? I mean, he's got this little zip to him that makes him so awesome.
I mean, that's just a coach you want to play for. I mean, if you want to visit with all these coaches, I mean, you look at the Coach Cals of the world. You look at the Izzos. You look at these coaches that have been paid, and they've been at these programs for a while. And this is how these coaches start out, though. They start out like Dan Hurley. They start out with this energy, and then hopefully Dan Hurley doesn't turn into like these sellout kind of guys.
Yeah.
I'm especially talking about like Cal. I think he's kind of like the biggest one. He was like so down to earth, and then became this hot shot at Kentucky.
Yep.
Whatever. I just hope Hurley doesn't end up like that, but I don't think so. I think he's got a good head on his shoulders.
I think he does too.
I think that team's going to do something special this weekend.
I think they are too. 100%. I think they go back to back.
I think they do
think
too. I think it's UConn Purdue. I think UConn wins in a close game.
Close game. I wouldn't. Yeah. Yeah. That's
it.
basically it,
Yeah.
man. I mean, I think UConn will set up to be one of the greatest assembled teams in basketball history.
I agree, and it's sad though because we only have 3 more college basketball games
I
for the whole
know.
season. It's sad to think about.
The hype thing is, oh my God, it's the Final Four, and you're like, wait,
Yeah,
3 more games.
it's kind of like that week after the championship games in the NFL, and you're like, man, we only have 1 more football game left.
It's in 2
It's not even
weeks.
this week. Yeah. So it's kind of like that. It's kind of we're just sitting here right now waiting for these games. But I know on Sunday when we're sitting there in between games, we're gonna say, hey man, we only got 1 more game left this season, and that's gonna be pretty sad.
It's gonna be a sad story, right?
But let's hope it's a great 3 games. Let's hope it's the best 3 games of the
that
season
we've ever seen.
or at least one of them is a great game. Hopefully the national championship.
That's the ultimate goal, is just praying for a good national championship.
That'd be great. So thank you guys for listening. If you guys have any criticism or thoughts about the Final Four or NHL playoffs coming up, leave us a comment below. Leave us a comment on our Instagram.
Which is at Out of Bounds Podcast with a dot between every single word.
Yes, there is, Gavin. If you like this episode,
Leave a like.
leave a like, I guess. Yeah, I mean, whatever. Leave a like. Leave a dislike. I don't care. I don't know if Gavin cares. Maybe leave a like for Gavin.
Hey.
Yeah, leave a like for Gavin. Thank you guys for listening. Have a great day.
Have a day.